can walk away. There you go. I see it. Thank you. Thank you, Agar. We could all walk away learning something and doing something and really being affected by the conversation to really make some real change. Nice. This is good. We're doing good this month. Hey, we're winners. Look at us. Jenna. Hello, my love.
Hey, hi.
We got Jackie twice. I think this is a win. I'm done. Mission accomplished.
Yeah, the more Jackies, the better.
I know, right? All right, awesome. I hope you grabbed your food. This is a good time because we are breaking bread. There you go, Agar. I like everything with like a crunch. So I added some cheese crackers to my soup. I don't know if other people do that. It might be weird, but I like everything like to have a little bite to it. Jay is also here. She's just like in the background. She is with me with Homestead Hustle and Healing. And she's also a rock star facilitator. So she's going to be listening and helping us out. And Agar is here as well. She's going to be co-hosting with me. So we'll do one more minute and then we'll get started. In the meantime, while we're waiting, how about you drop in the chat what is for lunch? I cheated. So like last time, what did I have? Like sushi or something like that. And it worked out well. I didn't die. Like everything's fine. There you go. Coffee. Really? Really, Jay? I guess. Oh, pumpkin cold brew though. Leftover burrito. Lentil soup. That sounds really good. I have that Panera, like at Giant, they have just the Paneras that you warm up. I wish I had a bread bowl. Do they sell the bread bowls where you can just like heat them up yourself? Because it would be absolutely lit after that. So I have the broccoli cheddar, and then I did cheddar like crackers on top. It'll probably be cold by the time. Let's see. I'm too greedy to have leftovers. Wow. Hilarious. Oh, Jackie, you have Panera too. But you did the salads. You like made your own, you picked two?
See? No, I got one of those big ones from Giant, like you were talking about. And it's my telework day. So I heated that up and then I made a healthier salad.
Oh, there you go. Nice. And I bet it was way cheaper than if you were to go to the store and get it. For sure. Your roommate did it. You have a rotating cooking schedule. I wish I had somebody to rotate a cooking schedule with. It's just me, and then on Tuesday myself, and then Wednesday I. That's my rotating cooking schedule. I see some new faces. I see some old faces. Nice. Okay, so let me ask you one more question. How did you hear about today's Breaking Bread? Was it Instagram? Was it my Instagram? Was it Mana's Instagram? Was it the newsletter? We want to make sure. Did you hear it? Were you invited by somebody? Agar. There you go, Agar. All of you. Yeah, we stalked you, Allison. We did. It's okay, though. It's fine. I'm not above it. Like, okay. Nice. Perfect. So as those answers keep coming through, we'll get started, because one thing I did learn last time is that time moves extremely quickly when we're all eating and having fun. So welcome to Breaking Bread. This is the October edition, Childhood Hunger, and I am your host for today. And my beautiful co-host Agar is joining me. Agar works directly for Mana Foods. My name is Vanessa Pierre. I have an organization called Homestead Hustle and Healing, and I am working with Mana Food on this project that I have actually really been enjoying. Next time you see us, our roles are gonna be switched, and Agar is gonna take over while I just get to enjoy my food, because by the time I'm done talking, my food is cold. So enjoy for me. Please eat. Please eat. It makes everybody feel more comfortable. So last time, what was the topic last time? We were talking about summer after the pandemic. And we had good travel tips, remember? It was like, so now we all know like which flight to take to not get COVID. We all unanimously agreed that like, although we're pretending the pandemic isn't over, it is over. It actually is not over. We talked about judginess a little bit. We talked about, do we wear our masks? Do we not wear our masks? And we talked about a lack of services because of this falsehood of a pandemic being over and how that affects us and how we just want to learn from the experiences that we had. We can apply that same lens to childhood hunger. And today we have a special guest who was here with us as a guest last time, but now she's going to update us on all the things that the Food Council, who does so much in this community, is doing surrounding childhood hunger and working with the council. So we're going to hear a little bit from them, just enough to get the conversation going. And then I would love to hear about some lived experiences. I will share a little bit of my own, but this is where we have those conversations. This is what Breaking Bread is about. It's a time where we can all get together as a standing appointment, a date, if you will, to all come together, break bread, be comfortable with one another, and be able to share our experiences, learn from other people's experiences, and really some great call to actions of if we're all having the same experience, right? If we don't share our experiences, we don't know what's shared and common between us to be able to really elicit some action. But it's informal, that you don't need to raise your hand. Like, we're all at one big virtual Zoom table. And hopefully one day soon we will be in an actual table and be able to really get to know and love on each other. Some general housekeeping. I would love to hear about your upcoming events. We had a great turnout last time, and people who really offered us some topics. Like, we want to hear what you want to talk about. It can't just be from us, right? Tell us about some topics. If you're going about your day and about your weeks, because there's like 3 weeks in between meetings, and you're like, you know what, we need to talk about this on Breaking Bread. Please share that with Agar and I so that we can make it the topic. And you can even introduce it yourself. We're not set in stone hosts here. We're better together. It's a community. If you'd like to volunteer with us, Vanna could always use the help. We need facilitators for this meeting, and always share the word. We're better together. So our icebreaker was kind of about your Thanksgiving plans. I've decided to just wing it for Thanksgiving. Quite honestly, I'm supposed to have a baby the day after Thanksgiving. And so I think I'm going to just beg, honestly, if you have a plate that you'd like to just drop by, or maybe pre-cook something. My kids are gonna get mad, but I don't think I'm doing much. So please share your Thanksgiving plans in the chat. It's last year was interesting. We were all scared to come together, I think. Now it's a little bit better, but I got knocked up, so there we are. All right, cool. So you share what's happening. Another thing about next month is that we're doing our celebration of diversity. That's the theme of our lunch. Today's theme was like Thanksgiving style. We saw some squash soups and lentils. We have, I think fall is more about the warm, feel good foods, right? It's those hearty dishes that make you feel good and warm from the inside out, cuddle food, if you would. So I'm so glad that you guys participated in the lunch theme, and we're going to carry that theme on next month, but we're going to celebrate diversity. Montgomery County is one of the most diverse places that I have ever been a part of. And there's so many different cultures. And Thanksgiving is an American thing, right? But gratitude happens across all different cultures. So we'd love to hear next time how you celebrate. If you don't celebrate, or what do you do otherwise? What foods are specific to your culture? I'm Jamaican, and so we have turkey, but it's like more so for decoration, just because we think we're supposed to have turkey, and they give away a lot of turkeys for the time. But we mostly have like oxtail and rice and peas and, snapper, and I'm getting hungry. So we'd love for you to either tell us or bring us or show us what represents the diversity of how you celebrate Thanksgiving. And Agar is going to drop the registration link. That food look good, Agar. It's good, right? Yeah, I've never seen a salad look so good. Okay. So she's going to drop the link. Make sure that you register. This is the way to get it on your calendar because life moves really quickly. And if you don't register now, you might forget about us and we might miss you, might make me cry. Like it'll be a whole thing. So just go ahead and register now so that you don't miss us. All right. So now that I've done all my talking, let's talk about what we are really here for besides the food. I come for the food, but I also come to see all of you guys. So if you feel comfortable turning on your camera, don't leave me out here by myself. Okay. But you can just, unmute. Still, plans are still in the making. Jenna, you can give up one of those Thanksgiving meals.
Sure.
You don't need to.
You want to drive up to Pennsylvania to hang out with my parents? You certainly are welcome.
I'll give you the
I'd happily
though.
stay here while you head on up.
No, that's a sacrifice
Okay,
I'm not
all right,
willing to do. If anyone knows me, I'm very serious about my gas. Like I'm very serious about my gas. Okay, so all right. So childhood hunger. I don't know if I think they've made a big deal about it, especially in the beginning of the summer. I believe it's Councilmember Gabe Albernette. I don't know how to do that. Okay, Albernette. He Jackie, Alice, all of us were in a little room talking about childhood hunger and the initiative, the concerted effort. That's an initiative, right? The concerted effort that the county is making to end childhood hunger. And so there is this, there was fancy billboards and there was statistics up and all of these things. But the most important thing that I think came out of it was one, that we're paying attention, and two, that they enlisted experts, Montgomery County Food Council, who could pool all of their resources and really get some concrete recommendations from the community. So I would love to hear from Allison about how that initiative is going and the work that you guys are doing. Tell us a little bit about it, and I'm going to eat some of my food.
All right. Thanks, Vanessa. Thanks for that intro. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. I just have a couple slides. I promise I won't talk for very long because I do want to, leave a lot of time for discussion. Yeah, so here, let me just do the slideshow. Okay. All right. Can everybody see slides? Okay, great. So like Vanessa said, back over the summer, we all got together for a press conference to sort of kick off this initiative to end childhood hunger in Montgomery County. This is an initiative of County Council, particularly County Council President Gabe Albornoz, and they have tasked the Montgomery County Food Council with coordinating the development of a strategic plan to end childhood hunger. Oh, and I am showing the wrong presentation. Right on. All right. This shows you what I got going on today. So let's switch over here. All right. Let's try this again. Okay. Strategic plan to end childhood hunger. Now we're on the right place. So, why is this important? Some recent data out of the Capital Area Food Bank found that 46% of households with children in Montgomery County experienced food insecurity at some point in last year in 2021. And in contrast, only 21% of households without children experience that. We can see the numbers of children that are on free and reduced meals, that are on SNAP, that participate in WIC. We know too that we're not even capturing all of the children who would be eligible for all of those programs. So the way that we went about trying to develop the strategic plan to end childhood hunger is we wanted to look across all the food access barriers, assess the current landscape, try to understand the funding mechanisms, the existing programs, should new programs be created, what policies and administrative procedures need to change, and then what metrics do we want to look at for success. So we split it up into these strategic brainstorming groups, and we picked 6 different areas where policies and programs could be potentially implemented to help address childhood hunger. And so these were school-based strategies, benefit program-centered approaches, early childhood, out-of-school strategies, emergency food access, and healthcare focused strategies. And we convened these strategic brainstorming sessions. We invited subject matter experts, policymakers, residents, community-based organizations. I think, yeah, the next slide. These are all the community-based organizations that were involved in these strategic brainstorming sessions. There were about 70 of them. So we tried to get everybody, and if anyone is on the call who participated, we really appreciated your participation in this. It was they were terrific meetings that really dug into what's already happening in this area, what challenges exist, what barriers are there to moving forward, and what are some tangible policy and program suggestions that we can make to the county that they could potentially implement to really affect childhood hunger. And then the piece that I'm most excited to talk about here today is the resident engagement that we have done. So we obviously wanted to center community voice and make sure that we were speaking directly to residents and those affected by hunger. And so we did that in two ways. We had a resident survey, and we had over 1,600 respondents to the survey. So we were thrilled with the response that we got. The survey was available in both English and Spanish. And I was looking through the survey results this morning. We haven't done any deep analysis on it yet, but I was, a couple of things that stood out to me were that 85% of respondents said that they sometimes to always worried about food running out before they were able to afford more. I thought 85% was just an incredibly high number of respondents. And then another thing that really stood out to me is that most respondents were aware of benefit programs, but only about half of those who were aware were actually enrolled in them. And I thought that that was really interesting. And the survey also went into some of the barriers to enrollment. And these are things that I think we know, but it's always good to see them pointed out by the people that they are affecting, things like language barriers and not being able to get help in their preferred language, not being able to tackle the sort of burdensome administrative process and paperwork that's required for some of these programs, not having the time to do that, and then either not being eligible or not understanding if they are eligible, maybe having like mixed status members of their families and not knowing, who may be eligible and who may not be. And the other way that we solicited resident feedback was we hosted 3 listening sessions, and MANA actually hosted one of them. The other 2 were hosted at the Upcounty Hub and through Identity. And we had 30 total participants in these listening sessions, and these went like a lot more into depth into how people are experiencing food insecurity, their food purchasing behaviors, really went more into depth into their barriers to feeding their families. So we really look forward to including that data with the report. Coming up next for us, I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing because that's the end of my slides. But right now we're deep into writing up our recommendations that we been collected from our strategic brainstorming sessions and from our survey and from our listening sessions. We're collating all that information and coming up with concrete strategies that we're going to be recommending to County Council that they can implement to impact childhood hunger in Montgomery County. So our timeline for that is hopefully we're looking maybe a month or 2 from now to have a final report. And that's where we stand with that. It's been a really wonderful process. We've been able to engage so many different community-based organizations and so many residents. So we really feel strongly that we've gotten great feedback, that we've left no stone unturned, that we've really looked at all potential policy and program strategies, and we're excited that and hopeful that the county will be able to implement some of them soon.
Thank you. That's awesome. Some of those things that, well, one, I can't wait to see the results of the survey, right? It's because, even though us organizations all pitched in and shared what we see, that lived experience piece, that community engagement in that survey, I think is the most impactful. 85% were afraid that food was going to run out. In one of the wealthiest counties in the country. In one of the wealthiest countries in the world. I'm going to get into my Whitney Houston bag for a second here. I believe the children are the future, okay? And if we in good faith feel that way, how did it take a pandemic to make this a priority? Doesn't that like, it's amazing. But I'm glad that we have the data, and I hope that, you know, the recommendations are taken seriously, right? Because that's that next piece, right, Serena? Like, okay, sorry, what are they gonna do? What are they gonna do when we have all these great recommendations and lengthy reports? That's up to us, right? That's up to everybody here who are advocates in our own rights, and we're advocating for our family, we're advocating for our children. There's nothing like a mama bear or papa bear. Like, we are just vicious. It takes showing up to conversations like these, and showing up to council meetings, and showing up online if if that's your bag, and talking about, okay, so now we know there's a problem. We knew there was a problem. This is not something new. But now we have the tangible results due to all the hard work from all of you guys. And now it's up to the rest of us to make sure that these recommendations actually are put into effect, and not just another initiative that falls by the wayside, from being completely honest. All good intentions. We, the other people, the lay people, the people who are experiencing this every day, it's up to us. And advocacy doesn't just come in the form of testifying at hearings. It's letters, it's meetings, it's showing up at PTA things, it's volunteering if your school is, your kid's school is doing a farmer's market, that we make intentions turn into progress and action. So I just want to open up the floor. I think, like I said, the next part of this is really about lived experience, and I can share my own. And I know that Montgomery County is what I have to say, don't kill me. I have to say, I wish that the survey involved more than just English and Spanish speakers. I think especially in East County, I'm not sure about the rest of the county because I don't live there, is made up of so many other people that even in those places, some folks might have been left out. So once you said those numbers, I'm like, oh, can you imagine how many other people from the African, community are experiencing this, who already have barriers to even sharing a story of like, we're experiencing hunger, may have been left out of this conversation. So you said 85, I'm pushing 88, 89%. I'm just assuming that there's way more that we didn't capture, right? That makes it even more of a problem. I'm gonna unpin you so you don't have to be here with all of this. All right, did I unpin you? Let me see. Gallery. All right, there we go. So my experience with childhood hunger, because I found that when I share my story, that other people might feel a little bit more comfortable too. And please come off of mute, share. We want to know a couple of things. We want to know, one, have you ever experienced it? We often talk about our children, but I think it's important to talk about the parents first. Like, these are chains, these are cycles that continue. A lot of times you see food insecure adults, obviously their children feel the effect, but they might have been themselves food insecure children. You see that these are kind of generational things that, take conscious efforts or real change or willingness to break this cycle. So with me I'm speaking from an immigrant perspective, as a Black woman, single mother perspective, which might be unique, but it may not be yours. So I want to hear your also experiences. I always say it, poor wasn't hungry, but we didn't equate the two. So I felt like we always had food. I felt like, well, we didn't have all the sugary snacks and stuff like that. Like I wanted to, like my friends had like Debbie cakes and zebra cakes and things like that. We didn't have any of those things. And now I realize, even though those things were cheaper, right? Those really bad foods are really cheap. And so a lot of my friends that did have a lot of that stuff were actually hungrier than I was, because their parents could load up on sugary, they didn't have a lot of fruits and vegetables in their house because fruits and vegetables are expensive. So what I thought was like, oh, well, my mom just, buy oatmeal cream pies and stuff like that. It's almost sad to say, because we were in like a better position to be able to buy food that was more nutritious. So the friends and I grew up in South Florida, between South Florida and Jamaica, but most of my childhood hunger experiences in America. We don't really have as much of those issues where I come from. And I went to school in Fort Lauderdale, and it wasn't a great neighborhood. And we had storehouses. I don't know if you guys know what that is. So like one mama she would go to like BJ's or Costco, and she'd like break down Capri Sun boxes and sell them for 50 cents, like to let her kids like carry stuff to school in their backpack and sell, because we're very creative folk. We are. So that was kind of my experience with that, was that I thought we weren't lacking. And I just found out like a couple of years ago that my mom was skipping meals. And I always wondered, like, why does my mom eat so much cereal? Like she was like she had cereal for dinner. I was like, she's just weird. Or she would always say she was watching her weight. Like that was the thing, right? I don't know if we've all heard that. Like, no, that's fattening. I'm not going to eat that. I'm not going to eat that. Come to find out, now that we're older and my mom can have that conversation with me, she gave it to us because we didn't have as much. She was literally pinching every dollar. We didn't eat out. We were the first Black family to move into an affluent white neighborhood. And that was a come up for us. I was one of the only Black kids in the school at that time. And that came with a lot of sacrifice, but it came up a lot of keeping up appearances. So I would go over my friends' houses who were of different races, and they would get to like eat out and have like McDonald's and all of these different things. My mom was, no, we're cooking. We're Jamaican, we cook. No, we couldn't afford to eat out. So I'm just learning these things now. But I almost wish she would have shared that experience with us when we were younger, because I blame myself for being food insecure for my kids. So when that cycle repeated with me, where I was skipping meals, or I was, saying I'm watching my weight so that my kids can eat, or we're going to bake bread because it's cheaper than buying bread and things like that, I felt shameful. And if I would have known, if my mom would have shared that, a little bit of that experience with me, then I would have maybe asked for help a lot sooner. If asking for help was better in my community and you weren't shamed and shunned, then maybe I could have broken the chain earlier. So I saw that, Jay, you had your hand up. Do you have anything to share?
Oh, I thought you didn't see that.
Did you not mean to?
I did, and then I backed away. Anyways, but she saw it, so I guess I'll tell my story. So for me, the way I experienced it when I was younger, was little things that my mom did, but I didn't consider it insecure, just her being smart. I knew we didn't have it. It was evident that we didn't have it like that in the Bronx. But what my mom would do was she didn't really know much about resources. You're Jamaican, you're prideful, so you don't know much about food stamps and stuff like that. You just deal with what you have. So she worked in a nursing home, and she would bring home little 2 cartons of milk because she knew okay, PJ has breakfast. She needs to eat in the morning, so let me bring home 2 little box milks because that'll be for her breakfast, and that'll be breakfast for Monday and Tuesday. Or things that she used to be creative with was making breakfast for dinner. I thought it was fun, really and truly, because of the fact that eggs and bread were a little bit more cheaper than you know how people order pizza on Fridays and things to that knowledge. So those are things that now looking back at it, you consider it is food insecure. It's just being smart. We didn't know there was a term for it, but it's being smart. But yeah, those are the things that you see, and as you grow up, you can tell, okay, you know, cooking obviously is much better than eating out, but you know, the access to the fresh vegetables and stuff like that, unfortunately, Florida, I don't think is as good with that, considering when we lived in New York, green grocery is right around the corner. You can buy 10 plantains for $1, you know? So it's, you know, depending on where you live, and I know Montgomery County, yeah, you guys have access to a good amount of things versus down here in Florida. I'm in Florida, by the way, but I think it should be available, of course, to everyone, not just the people who live close to it and everything. Everyone should be available of all the resources.
Agreed. And living in both places, in Florida, a lot of the stuff for my family grown, like vegetables and things like that. And because where I'm from, everyone's Caribbean, there was always a whole bunch of Caribbean food. And when I came up here, it was like, I gotta drive so far to get the fruits and vegetables and things that I'm used to. So when I go home, I eat. Okay, it's not just about the public subs. I eat. Does anybody else how did if you did experience childhood hunger, or you know anyone, how did it show up in your high school? How were you duped as a child? Where you were like, oh, you know, we're packed lunch because, you know, now you realize no, it's because we ain't have it. Did anyone else have that experience?
We used to have to drink powdered milk. And my dad told us that was so much better for us than regular milk, as we would have dinner, because we would grow tomatoes and cucumbers. So we would have dinner of powdered milk and tomatoes and cucumbers because we were healthy. And we couldn't have, I heard you talking about those pastries. I wanted a chocolate pudding pack so bad. But my mom was like, it's not healthy. You can't have it. I mean, but we didn't realize it until we were older, and we didn't have enough for lunch and stuff. So it just kind of like came apart. But yeah, my dad, powdered milk so much better for you.
It's the treachery for me.
Oh my God, it's terrible stuff, man.
The lies and deceit that I have found myself lying to my own children about.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
Like no, I make better pizza. Like now I'm like I can make pizzas because it's just so expensive. So now my kids like, I prefer when my mom makes pizza. I'm like, yes, it's a win.
I can't imagine anybody in this environment who's food challenged. When I went to the grocery store this weekend and I saw eggs and milk and bread, you know, your basic necessities that everybody said, and it's shocking. I mean, if you're not, you know, if you're even about to be food insecure, it's a good chance in this current environment. And
just playing what Brooke said is like the anxiety you feel going into a grocery store. So imagine, and we're talking as adults, and we can speak as children and how we were duped, but like, imagine what that stress and anxiety of the parent does to the child. Like, I've experienced like waking up so early to go to the grocery store so that my kids don't come and beg for things, because I would hate to have that conversation over and over again of, no, we can't get it. No, we can't get it. Like Takis, I hate Takis. The kids love them, but they're expensive for a little thing. And so I'm like, oh no, I already went to the grocery store, or I already ordered groceries. It's already coming. So like, they can't say anything about it, but it already comes. But yeah, that just anxiety of the food costs and everything like that. Like, and now it's kind of sad though, because then you have kids like mine who are like so overly concerned with your feelings and your emotions that they take that on themselves. And they're like, no, mommy, it's okay. You know, that's heartbreaking too. Like, parenting sucks. Like, there's just guilt from every angle. It's just from every angle. And my kids are just so aware, but I do try and make them a part of the process. But my kids also overshare all of our food with the whole neighborhood, but that's kind of the spirit of how we raise them. So Does anyone else have a lived experience that they would like to share, or even with where parenting your own kids and having experienced food insecurity? Maybe you work in the school system. I'd love to hear from a teacher. I wonder if we can get some teachers on here. Like, what does it look like in a classroom? What does it look like? What are the long-term effects of childhood hunger? Like, we already know that when you don't go to school, they used to say like, breakfast is the most important meal of the day, fuels you, I don't know if sugary cereal does the same thing that eggs and like bacon does, but how are your children affected, or have you seen children affected by experiencing hunger? Miss Jean, do you have something to say, or are you just popping on for us?
Oh, no, I'm just listening. Thank you.
Okay. Well, help me out in the conversation. Is there any other experiences that anyone else would like to share about their own experience with childhood hunger? Maybe a family, friend, community member, doesn't have to be your own, or just general thoughts. I really don't want to mispronounce your name. So I have been avoiding it like the plague, but help me and I will never forget again.
It's Xandra. It's like
Okay,
Alexander
Xandra.
the L, but I appreciate it, Vanessa. No, but you mentioned teacher and teacher experiences. I have had a couple of years of working as an educator and in the classroom. And I noticed pretty quickly early on when I was working at an art center in DC that oftentimes the kids that had the worst distraction, the worst attention span, were the most disruptive, oftentimes were the kids that were most hungry. And so it came to the point of sneaking some snacks in from the teacher's lounge to give them, making sure that they were the ones getting extra snacks at the end of the day, because oftentimes they're the last one getting picked up. But it really made a difference, and also making sure it was food that they would eat, because oftentimes, as I know of us that are familiar with the school snack programs and federal programs, it's not always food that kids really want to eat. So making sure that there was plentiful available options, the ability to trade snacks and whatnot was definitely helpful. But it was incredible. And I know I also worked as a English teacher in Senegal for a while, and a lot of those kids would not be having breakfast, or their breakfast would be a piece of bread with mayonnaise on it. And it was wild to see by the time lunchtime rolled around, the class would be an absolute mess of distractions. So I think it's a really important conversation to have when it comes to talking about food and how that does affect your experience of the education system and your ability to comprehend information, for sure. So thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah, because that's and they have lunch at school now at like 10 o'clock. Did you guys know that? Like, I don't know. We live in the DC area. We're very much brunch people. So I'm like, did you have brunch today? Because that was definitely not lunch. And they want to give them like cheeseburgers at 10:30. And by the time my kids get home, they are starving. But then we also used to have that stigma of like teasing the kids who brought their lunch. Like, where does that even come from? Just all of these things that we're kind of trying to right our wrongs, right? So again, speaking from experience, and I can just talk about, kids, I'm trying to find a way to say this. Historically, in school systems that have been kind of in lower income Black neighborhoods, Latina neighborhoods, you see a lot of behavior issues in those schools. And now we're just starting to make the connection of, no, these kids were labeled bad. These kids were labeled ADHD. We know that there's an overabundance of just all the Black boys were ADHD, right? They all are inattentive. They were all class clowns, I think. And now we're starting to really step back and look at the correlation between these things and these labels that we want to put on kids that maybe issues that were affecting the community as a whole. We're seeing them realized in classrooms with kids who are hungry. Imagine such a simple fix, right? Is that if kids were able to eat and they weren't hungry, then they can pay attention, then they can do better, then the scores of the school does better, then these kids have better options to going to college and other opportunities. This changes, just a simple issue of hunger changes whole communities. my son is like, I think everybody knows all of my stories. I don't have no more stories to tell y'all, but my son is special needs. And I found that breakfast, just simple breakfast, minding sugar and things like that, really did help him to the point where he's no longer on medication. Like food helps, food is medicine. But we're pushing, a whole bunch of other things besides just access to food. Has anyone seen the difference of, I believe we're still doing free breakfast. Do we know for sure in the schools that I believe Montgomery County is still doing free breakfast?
They have free breakfast and free lunch, but unless you're not qualified into their program, and then you have to pay. But so they have split that out now.
I don't know why we're still talking about money when it comes to children and food. that just doesn't make sense. It just doesn't make sense. So, all right. So we're here in the conversation where I don't want to be all Debbie Downer or whatever, but it's important that we share these experiences. And I want to hear from you guys of what you think are real tangible actions that can be done. We've heard that the Montgomery County Food Council has come up with some recommendations that we can't wait to hear about. But I know we all have ideas on how we know the effect of childhood hunger. We know that it affects the classroom, it affects learning, it affects obviously health, it affects mental health as much as it, or if not more than it affects physical health. And that mental health piece is really what sets kids up for success. And we know that it's seen in neighborhoods that look a certain way and have a certain income level, and we don't kind of see that on other parts of the county. So we know that it's a systemic issue that happens here, and it's part of a much bigger picture. But what do you think as a community we can do? Is it money? Is it more options? I know that some schools have like a farmers market program. Like I know that Capital Area Food Bank does some market options at school. Like, what is it? We have a representative from the Food Council here, and we have just each other. How can we brainstorm together? If somebody said to you, how do we solve childhood hunger? What's the first thing you'd say? That's a tough one. Jenna.
Well, immediately what came to mind is that we have to solve family poverty. I mean, sometimes I do. Maybe it's because I don't have children, but when we talk about childhood hunger, I think it's convenient because it gets people's attention, because as you said at some point, Vanessa, like when we think of children being hungry, we think, well, that can't possibly be their fault. So it's something that I think brings up more emotions for people than talking about a single man who's 50 who's hungry. But point is that I think that children, not always, but are often in a family unit of some sort. They're not the breadwinners, so they need to be in a family or in a unit or with an adult that is making enough money to pay for all of those foods, right? And the other thing is universal school meals, as we've sort of been alluding to and talking about the ridiculousness of having kids or having families having to pay for breakfast and lunch at school. It'd just be part of the school day. It's important to educate kids about food as medicine, as you said, and that's just a way to do it and to make sure that kids are nourished enough to be educated. So
Sure.
Yes, it's money. In my opinion, a lot of it is about money in different forms.
Yeah, and we have some great comments too. I agree with Jenna. Bigger system issues are both family of origin and families that are multi-generational or otherwise constructed. For sure. And I think there's an educational piece there too. Like it all plays together. When you think childhood hunger, you often think, well, what are the parents doing or not doing or whatever the case may be. We have a lot of education programs on it's okay to come forward. And sharing in spaces like these, I think all help us to share information and help the bigger picture. Jay said, kill the income limits for families for free food programs in school. All kids eat free breakfast and lunch. Yeah, Absolutely. I just don't know why you can't have one without the other. You can't have quality education without quality nutrition. Like it just should be a part of, when I see them fixing, I know we got roads, right? But do you know how much money they spend on these roads? Like 95 has been under construction since I was born. And I don't know what they're doing. I don't know which family is receiving this money on the back end underneath covers. And I don't know. There has to be some conspiracy, because I don't know why we have to fight for dollars for children and everything else gets done. We have the new purple line. Can we get some purple vegetables in our kids? I'm sorry. I just feel like until we make it a real priority, like, what do they say? Like, your value is where your dollar is, right? Like you put your money where you find value. So we really got to look at how spending is happening and see, we can talk all we want as a county, as a community, as a state, as a country. Where do we put our money? That's where our values lie, and it's not kids. It feels nice to say because we tugs on our heartstrings, right, Sue? And you work with kids in childhood hunger all the time.
Yeah, I think one of the reasons people are more willing to spend money on roads than they are on kids eating is because not everybody has a kid. You hear people all the time say, "Why do I have to pay school taxes? I don't have any kids in the school." We have to convince everybody it's for the good of the country, for our civilization, that we take care of our kids. But I think that's why everybody drives on a road. Nearly everybody uses the road. So they're willing to spend money on the roads, but not everybody sees what's going on with the kids. I even have a lot of friends who live in Potomac in the Master Gardener program that never saw food lines during COVID because they never left their neighborhoods. And, they knew it. They didn't argue with it, but they never saw it. So we don't live in the same world, even in Montgomery County. I mean, I have kids come to our youth garden in White Oak, and Food Council has been there and said, and politicians have been there, "Oh, this should be everywhere." I said, "Great, it just takes the money." "Oh, that shouldn't be a problem." Well, I've had that garden going for 8 years now, and there's not another one like it in the county or the state for that matter.
Yeah. And Sue taught my son to garden, I would just like to say, and he won a $9 check from the fair, and he loves it, and he thank you very much. You see it. How excited are the kids at White Oak to grow and eat and learn about healthier?
This year was phenomenal. Our kids were amazing this year. We had one little girl in the spring we were planting that she needed to go inside to go to the bathroom, but she didn't want to. So she wet her pants.
Oh,
it's okay. It's good.
And then another kid
for the
threw a temper tantrum because she didn't want to go back inside. She wanted to stay in the garden. And we have all kinds of little stories like that. So yeah, the kids love being there. They love the worms. They love the vegetables. They keep asking me. They walk around the garden and go, "Can I taste this? Can I taste this?" I'm going, "Everything except the hot peppers, not the hot peppers."
I'll take the hot peppers over the one chip challenge. Okay, because can we actually bring that program other places? There's an advocacy opportunity. If you feel like you want to get something on, help Sue open this in other places. And I love that piece about if you don't see it. It made me want to never drive my car again. I really hate driving, but I'm gonna not drive it and be like, well, I don't want to pay taxes for that because I don't use the road. The rebel.
Well, I don't pay road tax because I drive two mostly electric cars, one completely electric car and one hybrid electric. So road taxes for the gasoline tax is what pays for the roads. So I don't contribute to the roads.
How do you fix people? How do you get people to think outside of themselves for the greater good? Like, this is probably like a 3-hour conversation. I'm not gonna hold, but I mean, if anybody can figure out how we fix people, I think we could just fix a lot of other issues. Because
You start now with the kids. You have these conversations with the kids,
Yes.
and it's an evolving process.
And it's one person at a time.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You know, or I only am in touch with 10 people. That's okay. That's 10 people you changed.
Yeah.
And the conversation is different. But I have a conversation with my daughter who is like, you know, Latinx and this and that, and correcting everybody. And my son's all like, well, if it's not happening on the computer, I'm not dealing. So it's not one thing. It's multiple. It's multiple. Everybody's got an impact, but that's what you have to share with them. And they need to talk about this stuff in school. I mean, my kids bring lunch to school because I can't stand the food at school. And so they don't have any shame there other than they don't like making their lunches. But I really definitely think, I mean, as adults, we can go to the meetings and we can show up and talk with our dollars or whatever, and, you know, and vote. But also the kids need to be able to have this conversation because teachers need to hear. I mean, I know my kids have teachers who are so not engaged. They don't even know, and they're in high school and middle school. And, you know, I really think that we have to be honest with our kids about what's happening. My kids don't believe, my kids, even though like I'll tell them my experiences, they don't believe that there are kids who don't live in homes, that might live in a car, that might not have any food, that might not have, you know, a coat. They think that I'm just being dramatic. So sort of I am sometimes, but that is the life. And I just, you know, I try to expose them to different lives, but that's where I go. And I look to you all who are in these organizations. What can we do as adults that might be helpful and useful and impactful? And Sue, I'd love to get more information about your garden, because I live up county and there's lots of land around here, so we can do stuff with
There's
that.
lots of land everywhere. There's a lot of rec centers around here that have land. Back to the teachers, because I come from a different point of view. I'm a retired high school math teacher. It would be lovely because our teachers are the ones that are always with the kids. They spend so much time with the kids, but they have so much on their plate and they are so stressed. So to be angry with teachers for not talking to the kids about some of the issues we wish they would, they just don't have the time. I mean,
let me correct myself. I wasn't saying that this is the teachers. I say this is we as our parents, as their parents, have to talk to our kids about it. It's not up to the teachers. You're right. They're in classes with 36 kids, all different levels of learning. I did not mean that to be the teacher's responsibility. I meant the kids need to be able to bring it to school so that they can have the conversations with other people and you know, at the PTAs and things. I did not. I think our teachers after the last 2 years are amazeballs. They are beyond outstanding, but I do know some of them are completely checked out and you know, they're burned out. Who knows?
Yeah. I mean, we all get like that. There's only so much you can take. And, you know, if you want to teach your kids gardening in schools, then you be the one offering to do that gardening club. There's a woman she's a private school down in Bethesda that got in touch with me. She and her friend, her kids are in kindergarten. They want to start a gardening club. They just say want some advisors to help with that. So if kids grow something, they eat it. So it's just that simple. You know, they're more than willing to test whatever they're growing.
Yeah, they'll at least try it. That's how I got a lot of my after school kids to think about some fruits and vegetables that they were never exposed to.
Right.
You know, and then they start to see the similarities between food and the cultures. We may all call them different things, but we share a lot of cultures that bridges that gap and creates community out of kids who think, well, this is my culture and this is what I do. You know, it really helped them to make a lot of friends. Like, oh, you call it yucca, we call it cassava. You know, it's really, you know, it's really cool to see. But I think this has been a really good conversation that could probably go on forever. I told you guys that time goes by so fast, and I saved the chat because there was so many good comments and suggestions in there. We had talked about a listserv or like a group chat or something like that, but I would love for you guys to keep the conversation going outside of here. Have those conversations. Even if you walk away from today having the conversation with your kids, you've started to break the chain, right? We said, talk to your kids. Stop lying to your kids about them Debbie cakes and zebra cakes, you know? Stop lying to them about the powdered milk, okay? Talk to them. I think that this is a giving season. This is a grateful season. If you were ever going to expose children, have volunteer. There's so many organizations that you can volunteer around this time of year, and also helping someone else, but exposing to, your children or your neighbor or your Capitol Hill friends or your Potomac friends to say, hey, let's go join a food line for Thanksgiving, or let's give out some to see some things that aren't our own lived experience. We can expose ourselves to the lived experiences of others. And the best thing you can do is show up to our next Breaking Bread. I hope that you guys all had a great time and you were able to eat. And Sue, I love to see you. And Sabrina, it was so nice to see you again. And I saw your question. I'm going to pose it to the group and then we can continue the conversation there. But please share us. If you don't have, this is a great way to get people who may not either be experiencing it or think that they're experiencing it alone. Breaking Bread is the place to bring them to break all of those barriers and have these conversations. So I hope you all had a great time. And we'll see you again next month. Don't forget to register. Agar just placed that link again. I hope you all had a great time. Invite a friend next time, and don't forget to tell us about your culture. Yes, Ms. Carol.
Agar and I are meeting on Zoom Monday to talk about a possibility of a community kitchen in Montgomery County. And so I'm mentioning it in case anybody else would like to join us. Let Agar know and she will send you the link.
Nice. We will put that in our recap newsletter.
Yes.
It's this coming Monday. We're meeting from 3:30 to 4.
Perfect.
Exactly.
And if you guys have any upcoming things that you want in our recap newsletter, please email us. If you could drop our email in the chat, Agar. We'd love to hear about what's going on. We want to support you too, just like you support us. All right. Thank you all for joining me. And until next time, bye everybody.
Thank you so
Thanks,
much.
everyone.
It's a good conversation.
Oh, thank you. Keep Jay in here, if you would, Agar, and you can boot the rest. We have a few more folks. 3 more. Oh, I have controls now. Look at me. I did it. If you could stop the live stream, that would be great. All right, recap sesh.